Okay, good morning. Yeah, it's Monday. Happy Monday. It's early. Let's see what we got going on since last week. Or by last week, I mean Friday. I definitely want to talk about this. I think we've had some pull requests. I think Alexandra's done some cool stuff. Yeah, highlight some cool work by Alexandra. And then definitely this. Okie dokie. Yeah, we'll get to this. We'll get to this later. So let's do some cool work by Alexandra. So let's see. This is some more Nick stuff that I don't understand because I don't do Nicks. Let me. Yeah, what up? Hey, Alexandra. Linux gang has arrived. Nick's gang has arrived, apparently. Cool. Yep, happy to have this. I don't, I'm very supportive of the Nick's people doing their thing. I don't understand it, but I support it. Fixing some README stuff. Love to have better docs. Hell yeah. This is noting that I went from streaming every day to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. All about that. I had an issue open for a ton of time that was like, hey, we should set this. And this is all we needed to do. Is this actually, I didn't look at this. Is that a Rust flag? It probably is. I probably linked it. Nick's gang, yeah. No, it is Rust flags. Yeah. Okay. I was expecting it to be a Miri flag, but I guess it makes sense that it's a Rust flag because you can get Rust to do that even when you're not running in Miri. For folks who don't know what that is, so like Rust does not guarantee struct layout of RepRC structs. It's the same group of people. The RepRust doesn't guarantee order, but like in most cases, the compiler is going to do something fairly predictable with it. So you can end up with unsafe code that happens to work, but like if the compiler decided to do different optimizations or change the layouts, all of a sudden you're accessing the wrong pointer fields. And since we do a lot of like unsafe pointer shenanigans in Ergot, basically we want to make sure that everywhere where we do unsafe pointer shenanigans, we use RepRC structs, because then we have a defined struct order. So if we like offset into a struct, then we're doing it in a predictable and correct way. I think I caught all of this already, and since the z-randomized layout stuff didn't break anything, then yeah, I think we're doing it all right. Alexandra also is more pragmatic than I am in that I was trying to get things to all be like borrow friendly and happy and wonderful. And it like required some hacks, and the answer was just use heapless, dummy. I don't love using heapless in a bunch of places. It's a good library that's very footgun shaped in that you can end up passing large stack items up and down the stack, or if you leave them in futures, they can explode the size of futures. This is probably better. It's better for now. I'm going to say I want to come back and basically undo this, but I want to undo this when Ergot is ready to undo this, and it's not. So I appreciate Alexandra's pragmatism here of just don't do hacks, dummy. Like subpar impl is better than hack, and then eventually we'll get back to not subpar impl. So yeah, this is just a good change. But yeah, basically it just makes the base type, instead of being borrowed, it's a heapless string. And these still type pun to the same as the owned ones, although I guess we got rid of the owned ones probably. We could still type pun this with a regular string, so maybe that could be a thing that, like, when not stood, we use heapless string, and when we are stood, it is like stood string or heap string. Yeah, I think either of that works, but yeah, it's probably not the thing to tackle right now. Corbin's another person who hangs out in some of my Matrix chats, is doing some connectivity stuff, and I was being my normal obnoxious self and saying, hey, you should try Ergot, because Corbin was asking me postcard RPC questions, and postcard RPC I think was working, but Corbin was like, why did you architecturally do this with postcard RPC? It makes it kind of hard to do stuff like this. And I went, yeah, Ergot does it different because of those reasons. So Corbin has a cool demo. I don't know how runnable it is if you're not Corbin, but kind of a WASM application that's running Ergot. So I think we have maybe Ergot running in WASM. I don't think any of the demos are WASM. Maybe we don't. Postcard RPC definitely is running WASM, but this might be the first Ergot WASM demo. But yeah, one using WebSys, which is postcard or WASM. One's using PicoServe, which is on a Raspberry Pi Pico, or it's not specifically for Pico. It's a web server for no-stood targets. Yeah, Alexander makes a point about not doing the stood no stood switch is for stuff is that you could on stood have a string that's longer than this many bytes and could run into a problem. I wonder, we could make that const generic and have a default len for that. I don't love that either. I don't know. We'll solve problems once it's an actual problem. But you're right. It would be a fun foot gun of, like, you received a string larger than this. JK, you don't get it. Right now, that would fail the entire serialization. I don't know if we have a fun way where we could turn that into a none. It might require, like, a custom serialize, deserialize impl. Like, for example, if someone sent a 17-byte name or something like that, then you could at least say none name and still get the message, because right now the message will just fail to deserialize, and that means that you just won't see the message at all. But yeah, I'm excited to see what just truncate. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, nothing could go wrong with just truncating a UTF-8 string. JK. But yeah. It won't cause, like, unsafety. That's one of the nice things about picking Serday over, like, raw string stuff or raw serialization and deserialization stuff, is that by default some stuff will not work, but it will fail in a safe way. Like, you won't get the message, but you won't, like, do a buffer overflow or do terrible things. So it's a reasonable I don't know, default for me, because you can usually go in and customize things. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I don't know if I've asked Corkin to upstream this. I think he's still working on it. I'm sure he's learning some stuff. He ran into some issues, but I think he got them all solved. But yeah, this leaves us with UI and protocol testing needed. So now that there's more people using it, I'm running into stuff where it's, the first getting the project off the ground was like, okay, I'm just gonna get good and write all the code and generally, like, manually test stuff as it came online, and that was fine. It worked pretty well, but now I'm running into stuff where I'm like, oh, the project is now large enough where there's inconsistencies where, like, edge routers and direct edge nodes were handling broadcast messages differently, and I ran into this in one of my recent PRs. It's probably this. But yeah, there was definitely, like, yeah, it just wasn't handling broadcast stuff right, because it was like, when I wrote the direct router stuff, I don't think broadcast stuff existed, or it did, and I refactored it, and I refactored it wrong or something like that. But it just didn't handle broadcast stuff. And I've just been kind of inventing some semantics around broadcast and stuff like that. So what do I have instead? I spent some time over the weekend thinking about how to test it, and so I just kind of wrote up a basic, like, mocking stuff and a little decal macro in the markdown table form that I love. And so you could have things where you say, like, okay, well, I'm going to do a test for a setup of the net stack that has no sockets. I have a mock profile that basically it just it has like a vec deck of all the things it expects to be sent, and like what you return from them, so that you can kind of script up tests and things like that, and then you can just add things to the case. So like how this works, essentially we make a fake profile called mock profile that just has a bunch of like FIFOs of what we expect to send there, and then what we're going to return there. This is very like classic mock testing. And then right now I've only implemented the send interface, but when you call send, it pops the expected value off, checks that what you're passing in matches what it expects, and returns what you told it to return. And this works because the net stack itself is very deterministic. There's no magic. So if you control the sockets and you control the profile, what goes through the system is currently very predictable and very deterministic. I don't think we have any like state. So testing it for now is fairly straightforward in my opinion. The question is, how do we like write out what the James and unhinged decal macro syntax, name a more iconic duo. I do this. I mean, like I said, if you go and look at whenever you have something that's like, okay, I'm repeating stuff, or let me see if I can go find one of my favorites. 509. What is it called? It was print scanner. There's like a really specific thumbprint scanner that I'm thinking of that I wrote some drivers for, and I want to say I did. Yeah, it's this one, R503. Yeah. Is this okay? Let me find. This is this where I did this? Yeah. So like anytime that you have like, okay, I have a different value and it's repeated and I need to generate the same stuff for it, that's a table. Like it's columnar data. And so like this is, for example, like an external thumbprint scanner. I'll just pull up a picture of it. This is the R503. I was doing this for someone. But yeah, it's like one of these, like, you talk UART with it over a thumbprint sensor and it does thumbprint scanner things. But yeah, anytime you do that, I like making little tables because I think the tables are adorable. So yeah, and Postcard RPC definitely does the same thing. So yeah, that's a pattern I do. I like it. So yeah, I try to do it. I don't know if that's the right thing for this though, because like, I don't know how I'm going to specify it, because like really what it comes down to is I almost want to have like something literary programming. So I thought of doing something sort of like the book. I don't remember where's the book. Am I blind? Wait, did I delete the book? Oops. Okay, well, I guess that's going to be the first thing that I do, is apparently I deleted the book at some point, probably when I merged things together. So first step, I guess, is going to be bringing back the book, and then maybe doing something like that, where, like, have the requirements or the protocol spec be kind of written in book form, and then have the conformance tests in line. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'll do. Well, I'll think about messing with that. The other thing is, like, I could also see this being much, because it's so deterministic, I could almost do it truth table-y. So it's like when you have no sockets, or like no matching sockets for the message that's being defined, and then what does it mean to have matching sockets or not? Like, I don't know, it's been a while since I've shaken out my spec writing skills, and Postcard was probably the last time I really did it, and that one was like, it's a format, so it's more deterministic. So I don't know. We'll see. That's what I'm gonna spend time doing today, is figuring out how I want to write the spec, and writing up how much of the spec we have so far, and then writing some conformance tests for that. I was tinkering with impl Ergot over Axe and WebSockets, and a lot of the impl details were just copy-paste the Tokyo Stood stuff, so maybe if we could simplify those Stood impls, maybe. Hell yeah. If you can think of a way to simplify them or make them more reusable, please do. Yeah. I am open to that. Yeah. So right now I have a conformance module, and I have some, like, very simple tests. So, like, with a default header, where default header is just, source is unknown, destination is a specific address, and the profile takes it, so it returns OK, which means that it takes the message. Then we get an OK back, even though we have no sockets. And then if the interface doesn't take, then it says no route. And then because there's no actual sockets, then it says no. And I think I probably could make one that says, like, destination local, where then it would prompt the netstack to give that to local sockets, and then it would probably say no route, because this is a socket interface, or excuse me, I don't remember what the S stands for. Send, I don't know. But yeah, yeah. So I think this will be interesting. I might keep doing this, because the thing is, like, generating tests is interesting, but mostly the interesting part is writing out, like, what the system is supposed to do. Otherwise, I could just, like, write a bunch of unit tests that are basically just a snapshot test. But kind of the goal of writing tests like this is to, like, document what the behavior should be. Like, hey, when you send a message and the profile takes it, then the stack does not attempt to send it to local sockets, and it returns OK, and it sends it with looking like this, and exercise that kind of thing. And then eventually I'll have another one that has sockets, and then, a lot of this ends up being very truth table-y, because you figure out, like, what you need to toggle for each of them. Like, oh, okay, when it's a broadcast, so like truth table wise, you might be like, is it, is it local, remote destination? What does the profile return? Like, did take what kind of error? And then, yeah, like, are there matching sockets? Like, is it broadcast or unicast. Yeah, it's gonna be a combinatorics game, and so I was almost thinking of like of shaping it like a truth table and seeing if that's interesting. Because if we can boil it down to like, even if it's a fairly large number of combinatorics, like 4 or 6 or 10, then at least it becomes very clear when you have and haven't tested certain things. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. So, and then eventually, hopefully, that'll set up some room where if someone wants to write a fuzzing harness against this, then they can use this as sort of like, the base infrastructure for that. But I think it's gonna be interesting. It's kind of it's a fun way to explore both spec writing and test writing, which kind of go hand in hand. And so even though these are kind of unit testy, it's still probably the best level of, like, not formally, but semi-formally specifying what the behavior is, and eventually getting that into a shape where you could write like an RFC style doc over it. But yeah, I think that's the plan. I think the first thing I'm gonna do though is get the book back in here. I keep finding stuff because like the way that I did the like merging the 2 crates was basically I moved everything from Ergot into Ergot base, and I just keep finding things that I missed, like some of the tests and the docs and stuff like that. But we would have noticed it as soon as there was a release. So, but yeah, I don't think there are any questions in chat. Just yeah, revive the book. Yeah. As always, I'm excited for this week. If you missed it on Friday, well, I'll mention the conferences I'm going to at the beginning of the next stream, which will be tonight at 8. Just so if people only watch the first 2 minutes, they see that, because I'm doing it at the end again like I did last time. But yeah, I'm going to be at Rust ChinaConf. I'm going to be at a Euro Rust doing SDR. I'm excited to see folks. Hell yeah. If you're doing anything cool, please show and tell, and I will see you all at 8 p.m. Central European Standard Time, summertime. Did I say Euro Rust? I don't remember what I said. Rust ChinaConf, Euro Rust are the 2. Alexandra might be at Euro Rust. Very cool. Okay. Yeah. Then I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll write some more. If anyone has cool features, hell yeah, please add cool features, and I'll work on boring books and doc stuff so that things can keep going. Eventually, I'm excited to come back and fix some problems like this. And then eventually, one of the big things that I want to come back and tackle is borrowed sockets. And eventually, I need to come back to do more discovery stuff, because we have basic discovery, but we don't have service discovery. So we will see what yaks get shaved on the way to this. But need a lift. I'm driving. No, I'll probably take the train, but thank you, Alexandra. Yeah. Okay. Have a good day, week, and I'll see you in a couple hours. All right. Talk to you later.